Geeta Mohan and you're watching World Today. Let's begin with the US elections. Pop icon Taylor Swift has come out and endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris. This could boost the Democratic candidate's chances of wooing the young voters, but how much of that would translate really into votes? President Biden's election really saw a significant number of voters vote for him, and that really made a decisive change in his own chances of winning elections. But how much of it is going to really impact the elections this time around on the 5th of November, after the first and maybe the only presidential debate that took place between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump?
Following the recent presidential debate in Philadelphia, where Kamala Harris and Donald Trump squared off, pop star Taylor Swift has now publicly announced her support for Harris and her running mate Tim Walz. Taylor Swift, who uses her various platforms to promote her music and engage with fans, boasts an impressive social media following: 283 million followers on Instagram, 32.8 million on TikTok, and 95.2 million on X. This totals 411 million social media followers, though there's substantial crossover between platforms, with many fans following her on multiple apps. And now, in her Instagram post, Swift shared a photo of herself with her cat, accompanied by a detailed explanation of her decision to back the Democratic candidates. The post, which received over 4.5 million likes within 3 hours. Swift encouraged her 283 million followers to research candidates and their policies thoroughly before the November 5 election. She voiced concern about the misuse of artificial intelligence to spread misinformation, referencing AI-generated images that falsely suggested her support for Trump. These deep fakes, which featured misleading endorsements and merchandise, led Swift to clarify her position transparently. Swift expressed her support for Harris and Walz, praising Harris's choice of Walz due to his advocacy for issues like reproductive rights and IVF. She concluded her post with a playful sign-off, "Childless Cat Lady," a reference to J.D. Vance's derogatory comment about Democratic leaders. This endorsement from Swift, who is one of the most prominent figures in the music industry, has been highly anticipated. Swift's announcement comes amid considerable speculation about when she might endorse a candidate in the 2024 election. She now joins other celebrities who have also voiced support for Kamala Harris, including actor George Clooney, actress Jamie Lee Curtis, and Mindy Kaling. British singer Charli XCX's endorsement also led to a surge in followers for Harris's campaign on social media. Moreover, this is not the first time Taylor Swift is backing a Democratic nominee against Trump. She previously endorsed President Joe Biden and Harris a month before the 2020 election. Additionally, Swift was a vocal critic of Trump during his presidency, particularly in the wake of nationwide protests over the police killing of George Floyd.
Trans lives matter.
Well, the impact of celebrity endorsements on elections is a subject of debate. While some voters claim to be unaffected by such endorsements, research indicates that celebrities can indeed influence voter engagement. A study from Harvard School published in August highlighted that endorsements can boost voter participation. For instance, after Swift's post urging voter registration in September 2023, Vote.org saw over 35,000 new registrations and a 1.226% increase in engagement within an hour of her post. Or, Oprah Winfrey's endorsement of Barack Obama in 2007 is credited with significantly boosting his campaign. Also, according to experts, celebrity endorsements often target voters who are less politically engaged or new to the process. They suggest that such endorsements might sway undecided voters or those new to political issues, potentially making a difference in close elections. In summary, while the effect of celebrity endorsements varies, they can play a role in increasing voter engagement and shaping public perception. Taylor Swift's recent endorsement of Kamala Harris may contribute to mobilizing voters, especially those who are less engaged in the political process. Bureau Report, India Today Global.
Elections are all about numbers. How are the polling numbers really stacking up? Now, according to the recent poll that was done after the presidential debate, it seems like Kamala Harris has a slight advantage over Donald Trump, between 47% for Kamala Harris to a 42% for Donald Trump, which is an advantage for the Democratic candidate for now. This is according to the Ipsos Reuters poll. The two-day poll showed Harris with a 5 percentage point lead among registered voters, just above the 4-point advantage she had over Trump in an August 21st to 28th Reuters Ipsos poll. Among voters who said they had heard at least something about Tuesday's debate, 53% said Harris won and 24% said Trump won, with the rest saying neither had or not answering.
We have a certain dissonance in the indicators right now. On the one hand, we have the polls, which are still suggesting a strong Harris, whether that be at a national level or at the state level, compared to Biden, right? On the other hand, we have the fundamentals like the economy, where Trump is preeminent. Those are signals that are divergent. And so I think that just looking forward, we're going to have to be careful and assess the two. You would expect them to converge, but they still are not. And that should everybody should feel a heightened degree of uncertainty about where we are right now.
Some 52% of those familiar with the debate said Trump stumbled and didn't appear sharp, while 21% said that of Harris. Among Republican voters, 1 in 5 said Trump didn't appear sharp.
It was not a good debate for him. So he did not make inroads in the principal points for him, which were inflation primarily and immigration. He leads on both. That's very important. But painting her as Biden's successor, painting her as sort of the representative of the party in power, that ultimately was responsible for inflation, high inflation, which is on the minds of Americans. He did not make inroads there. He did not do that in a very efficacious way during the debate.
The first presidential debate saw a new avatar of Kamala Harris, projecting her prosecutorial skills, countering her opponent Donald Trump on every issue, from economy to abortion, from immigration to Project 2025. She put Donald Trump on the map. Let's look at a face-off between the two leaders.
It was the same old show. Same old tired playbook we've heard for years, with no plan for how he would address the needs of the American people. Well, folks, look, it's time to turn the page.
As everyone saw 2 nights ago, we had a monumental victory over Comrade Kamala Harris in the presidential debate.
1 in 3 women in America lives under a Trump abortion ban. Many with no exceptions even for rape and incest. It is immoral. It is immoral. And I know we all here understand and agree one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree the government should not be telling her what to do with her body.
Kamala Harris said that no state allows abortion in the 9th month, which is a complete and total lie. They do. They do. And even after birth in some cases, she claimed, I want to monitor women's pregnancies. I don't want to do that. I don't want to. It's a total lie. I don't want to do that. Women, I won't be following you around to the hospital, monitoring.
On Spotlight this weekend, we have a major exclusive for you. This is an interview with the uncle of Kamala Harris, Dr. G. Balachandran, who is also a voice, a very strong America watcher and former consultant with IDSA. I spoke to him about Kamala's chances. He has very clearly said that she's going to win because Trump does not have a plan. Here's a snippet of the interview. You can watch the entire interview on India Today Global, our YouTube channel. Do you think in in what they're doing, in what they stand for, the issues that they're standing for, are they in the right place? Or do you think the Republicans have an upper hand on some issues, particularly to do with immigration?
Let me put it this way. The Republicans, who are the Republicans? MAGA Republicans don't have stand, okay? The traditional Republicans are almost dead. This election is very important for US especially, okay? Not for the rest of the world, perhaps yes, Ukraine and others might say that, but this will be the end of democracy in the US or not. But this election is very interesting by itself. Let me put it this way. If this fellow wins now, he would have set up record of records. He would be the first convicted felon to run for president and win. He is the only president who would have won twice on minority votes. He's not going to get a majority votes again. Thirdly, who would be the first president, actually the second president, the first president in nearly 150 years, who won the election in 2 non-consecutive terms. The last time a president won in a non-consecutive terms was in 1888. And even that fellow won the popular vote. He lost only the electoral vote. He won the popular vote all the 3 times. Trump has never won the popular vote in any election. Okay? So he'll create a record of sorts. The first president convicted felon to run for president, the first fellow to win a non-sequential presidential election, okay? The first fellow to win what you call twice impeached fellow to run for president. He would have set a record of records, 4 or 5 records in US election. It's a very interesting election to watch, apart from who is running this election, okay? My own feeling is this, not because she's my niece, this time she will win. Even though he gets a minimum vote, he will not get a majority of vote. I don't think he'll win the electoral college votes, okay? My prediction is Kamala will win, not because she is my niece, because the circumstances favor her now.
Because the circumstances favor her. Thank you so much, Dr. Balachandran, for speaking to us and sharing your opinion on the elections, as also on your niece, Kamala Harris. Thank you so much. Now, many in Afghanistan are still waiting for justice when it comes to what they call war crimes that were carried out by foreign forces stationed in Afghanistan. But there are only a few countries who've come out and accepted what was done back then. Australia is one of them. Australia has come out and stripped military honors of at least 25 troops of the Australian forces after an inquiry was conducted in which they were found guilty of having conducted war crimes in Afghanistan between 2005 and 2016 that led to the killing of 39 Afghans.
Yeah, mate, we're just moving around to the other side. We're right.
Several serving and former Australian military commanders have been stripped of their military medals over alleged war crimes committed in Afghanistan during the war. Australian Defence Minister Richard Marles, while addressing the Australian Parliament, quoted Brereton report findings and recommended stripping of the medals.
The Brereton report concluded there was credible information of unlawful conduct, the most disturbing of which was the identification of 23 incidents involving 25 Australian Special Forces personnel. These incidents related to the alleged unlawful killing of 39 people by or involving Australian Defence Force members, as well as the alleged mistreatment of 2 individuals.
The Brereton report, chaired by Major General Paul Brereton, found credible evidence that the Australian soldiers had unlawfully killed 39 people during the conflict.
The allegations, which are the subject of the Brereton report, are arguably the most serious allegations of Australian war crimes in our history.
Defence Minister Marles called the incident a matter of shame for the entire nation.
This will always be a matter of national shame. At the same time, the Brereton report, its recommendations, and the actions of successive governments in implementing these recommendations are a demonstration to the Australian people and to the world that Australia is a country which holds itself accountable. Any prosecutions of Australian war crimes will happen inside Australia by Australian court.
The move was slammed by Australian Special Air Service Association Chair Martin Hamilton Smith. He called the act as a betrayal of the courage and sacrifice of soldiers in Afghanistan. In 2020, soon after the committee was formed to investigate commanders by Australian government, Afghanistan victims recounted the horrific incident.
Our demand is that those who have done wrong to us should be put on trial. Justice must be served. I was tortured and I was not allowed to sleep when I was arrested.
In 2023, former SAS trooper Oliver Schultz became the first veteran to be charged with a war crime. He was accused of shooting dead a non-combatant in a wheat field in Uruzgan province in 2012. Earlier, a civil court found Australia's most decorated living war veteran, Ben Roberts Smith, unlawfully killed 4 Afghans when he was an SAS corporal. Smith has not been criminally charged. The government did not name the officers or mention how many will be impacted, citing privacy concerns. With Neha Kumari, Bureau Report, India Today.
The international community is up in arms against Israel's offensive in Gaza, but Israel continues not just to pound Gaza, but has also entered West Bank. The trouble for Palestine only grows further. This, even as Netanyahu toured eastern border with Jordan amidst fears of arms smuggling from Iran. But the question remains, why is Israel going into West Bank?
A spate of raids and recent tour of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the Jordan Valley in the Israeli-occupied West Bank has shifted the global focus from Gaza to West Bank. As chorus grows to end the war in Gaza and demand to find a peaceful solution for Palestinians reverberates on the World Forum, the recent killing of a 26-year-old Turkish-American activist, allegedly by the Israeli troops in the West Bank, has drawn criticism from its ally, the United States.
Her killing was both unprovoked and unjustified. No one should be shot and killed for attending a protest. No one should have to put their life at risk just for freely expressing their views. In our judgment, Israeli security forces need to make some fundamental changes in the way that they operate in the West Bank, including changes to their rules of engagement.
Israeli soldiers have been conducting several operations in the northern West Bank for the past several weeks, raiding Tubas, Jenin and Tulkar. This provocation is seen by the EU as the West Bank transforming into a new Gaza.
Where radical members of the Israeli government, Netanyahu's government, try to make it impossible to create a future Palestinian state. A new front is being opened with a clear objective to turn the West Bank into a new Gaza.
In the West Bank, deadly and destructive operations, some at a scale not witnessed in the last 2 decades, are worsening calamitous situation there, already aggravated by serious settler violence.
Though the Israeli soldiers withdrew from Gaza in 2005, they have their presence in the West Bank. The reason, they say, is to protect roughly 500,000 Israelis living in settlements considered illegal by most of the world. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu promised to secure the eastern border with Jordan. Israel and Jordan signed the peace treaty in 1994 and have close security ties.
In this multifaceted struggle, we also know that we need to secure and ensure our eastern border with Jordan. This is a border of peace. We are cooperating with the Kingdom of Jordan to ensure that it remains so. There is an attempt to smuggle both terrorists and weapons across the Jordan River into Judea and Samaria and into the cities of Israel. We are working here in cooperation with all parties to stop this.
The Palestinian settlements in the West Bank are being raided on a regular basis by Israeli troops to quell armed rebellion, which includes Hamas and other terror organizations, and also to protect Israelis living there. Israel has also intensified its offensive in the West Bank amid fear of rise in arms smuggling from Iran. A Palestinian from the West Bank set off a bomb in Tel Aviv last month. The Israeli military uses this as one of the examples to raid and attack the West Bank. With Mahashweta Lala, Bureau Report, India Today.
And here are some other stories from across the world in World at a Glance.
Russian President Vladimir Putin warned NATO members that a move to lift restrictions on Ukraine's use of long-range Western missiles to strike deep inside Russia would be considered an act of war. Putin's comments came as US and NATO allied partners appear increasingly open to allowing Ukrainian forces to use Western-provided long-range weapon systems to strike Russia. Russia's Federal Security Service, or FSB, revoked the accreditation of 6 British diplomats in Moscow, accused of spying. Britain described the accusations as completely baseless, saying it was a tit-for-tat action after UK expelled the Russian defense attaché and removed diplomatic status from several Russian properties in May. Anti-war protesters clashed with police outside a defence expo in Melbourne, Australia. Protesters threw rock, horse manure and acid-filled bottles at police. More than 1,200 people gathered outside the defence expo, which protesters said promoted weapons of war used in Gaza by Israel. Some activists chanted pro-Palestinian slogans and waved Palestinian flags, while others had signs and flags representing other global conflicts and causes. China raises its retirement age for the first time since the 1950s, as the country confronts an aging population and a dwindling pension budget. The top legislative body approved proposals to raise the statutory retirement age from 50 to 55 for women in blue-collar jobs and from 55 to 58 for females in white-collar jobs. Men will see an increase from 60 to 63. China's current retirement age is among the lowest in the world. The change will reflect from January 1st, 2025. Typhoon Yagi, Asia's most powerful storm, left dozens dead across southern China and Southeast Asia, leaving a trail of destruction with its intense rainfall and powerful winds. After hitting the Philippines, it turned westwards towards southern China and parts of Vietnam, Thailand, Myanmar and Laos. The storm caused widespread damage to infrastructure and factories.
That's all in this edition of World Today. But before I go, I leave you with these dramatic visuals of an accident that took place in South Carolina. A CSX freight train collided with a semi-truck transporting a military vehicle at a railroad crossing in Goose Creek, South Carolina. Despite the severity of the incident, no injuries were reported. Witnesses described the crash as being like a bomb going off, with the train slamming into the immobile truck, resulting in significant damage. Goodbye and take care.